Okay, so always form a hydrogen ion. So the first thing that you need to be able to do, and should be able to do from what I just said, from that note right there, is if I give you GO, and let's say, no, we're not going to do that to you. And let's say NaCO, right?
I'm lost.
If I give you 4 compounds, right here, from what we know, what I just taught you, what you just wrote down,
Only two.
do I have any acids up here?
Yes, you do.
How many do I have?
Two.
Why can you pick out those 2 acids? They all start with an H in them.
They have to start with the.
They all start with an H.
They have to start with an H.
They have to start with an H.
Let's say anything like H something. Like, does that mean anything that has an H in the beginning is an acid? Like water. You know water is not an acid.
Because this is where the unit falls into play.
Water
What
is
you need
acid.
to know right now for this unit, purely for learning purposes, of anything that starts with an H will be, like I about wrote down H2O, that's why I crossed it off, because it's not, okay? So for this unit, anything that starts with an H, hydrogen ion, will be an acid, okay? That's the first thing that you've got to know. The next thing is that these are broken into 2 naming systems. And they're going to kind of go along with our naming system with binary and tertiary. Remember we talked about the polyatomic ions the other day? About how to pick out a polyatomic ion or be looking for a polyatomic ion. So the first way is the easier way. This is our binary system. This is our binary system. Binary means what? 2. So 2 what? 2 elements. So when I look at, you can write it down. When I look at this list, first thing you should be able to tell me is yes, there is an acid in there. And in fact, there's 2 acids, right? And now that you've written down a binary must contain 2 elements. Well, what does one of those elements have to be? You see what I'm saying? Okay, one of those has to be hydrogen. So when I go back to my list of the 2 that we have, do I have a binary acid?
Yes.
Yes, I do. Which one is it?
HCl.
Because I have 2 capital letters. Yes?
So it wouldn't be the second one because it's a polyatomic.
And it has 3 capital letters. It has 3 elements that make it up. Binary is only 2. All right, and we'll see how this works. The other one is going to be oxy acids. So it might be beneficial to go back and forth at the same time. That way you know what you're comparing. So an oxy acid is going to be 3 or more elements. Which means if I have 3 or more capital letters, what must I be looking for?
An oxy acid.
Hydrogen.
Oh goodness.
A polyatomic ion.
Wow.
If I have 3 or more elements, one of them is going to be hydrogen. The other 2 are going to make up what? A polyatomic ion. Yes? This is how, I'm just trying to get you to realize, like, when should I be looking at that list? Or when should I be looking for these things? Okay? So this is going from a formula and into a name. This is kind of how you should start. Question?
What if the polyatomic ions like acetate or
That's why it says 3 or more. 3 plus, right? 3 or more. And that's because we will use acetate. That'll make vinegar. All right? So, binary. Back to binary. This is like this element count helps me get from the formula into a name, right? But what about the name into a formula? Well, every single binary name will start with the prefix hydro. Every single binary acid that we work with in here will start with hydro. Okay? How does that compare? Well, on your oxyacids, there was going to be no hydro. You will not see the word hydro in an oxyacid, which means if you're looking at a name and you don't see hydro, you should be searching for your polyatomic ion list because you're going to have to use it. Okay? So if I know that the name starts with hydro, what do I do from there? How does it end, right? So you're going to have hydro, and it's going to end in ic. It will, the ending of it. So if we go back over here and look at, let's go right here, right? What is the name of this compound right here? This is review. What is the name of this compound?
Magnesium oxide.
If you can't name this compound, you need to watch some videos or you need to come talk to me before Monday. Okay? So what is this?
Magnesium oxide.
So notice how it's not magnesium oxygen. We dropped the ending and added IDE, magnesium oxide. So in our binary acid, we're dropping the ending and adding ic. That's where that comes from. Okay? And then we're just adding the word, a second word, because this is all going to be one word. We're going to add the word acid. So putting all of the naming together, y'all watch this so you know where it comes from. If I need to name any acid, any binary acid, it's going to be hydro, something, ic, second word is acid. This is all one word, space, acid. Okay? So if I want to use the example I have right here, is this an acid?
Yes.
How do I know that it's an acid?
H.
It starts with an H. So then I go, okay, it does have an H in it, it must be an acid. Which acid is it? Well, how many capital letters do I have? 2. So that means I'm in the binary system, right? So if I need to name this, I need to start with hydro, chlorine turns into what?
Chloride.
So put it all together.
Hydrochloric acid.
Hydrochloric acid. Now, if you want to make sure that you have two words there, hydrochloric acid. Make sure I emphasize on the balls. Not too terribly difficult. All right.
About the oxyacids,
We'll get there. We'll get there. All right. Let's practice with these binary with the binary for a little bit. So you can go back to your notes and you have these examples in there, or you can just write these. You can write these underneath the binary if you want. That might not be a terrible thing to write these examples over here. So we've already done HCl. That's where this hydrochloric comes from. Hydro is a for certain thing because there's 2. Ic is a for certain thing because it's binary. Acid, because it's an acid. Okay? So if I go to the next one, HBr, you should be asking yourself, every time you look at a compound from now on, ionic or covalent? Well, cation, anion. This is going to be ionic. Then you should say, okay, what type of cation do I have? A block, B block, exception block. This is A block, right? Hydrogen is A block.
Yeah.
Now you should be thinking, okay, it's A block. Is it hydrogen or not? Yes, it is hydrogen. If you say yes, it is, it's an acid. Then you go here. Well, there's only 2 there, so I must use this naming system, right? So this is going to be, everyone starts with hydro. This is going to turn into a hydro something ic acid, right? So this is going to be hydro bromic acid. Okay, write down the next one. Write it down somewhere. HF.
Oh, no, sorry. HF.
I realize it's written there for you, but if you can't write this on your own or know where it comes from, you're not really learning the skill. All right, and it helps if you, because you will have to write these. You're gonna have a free response section where you have to write these out. Yep, it's 2 words, guys. It's 2 words. This is hydrofluoric as your first word. Acid is your second word. Now, let's go backwards, because now we have to, that's just one way of doing this. Now we have to go from the name and into the formula, right? So, this is your train of thought. Now, once again, this should be easy because, like, all of our attention is focused on binary acids, right? When we get to the quiz and test, they're going to be all mixed around, right? So you have to start thinking about, like, how am I going to differentiate between just an ionic compound and an acid, right? So, I see a word, hydrosulfuric acid. What is the key thing in here that tells me I'm dealing with an acid?
Hydro. Hydro.
I'm dealing with an acid.
Acid.
Acid. Right? Then I can say, okay, what type of acid am I working with?
Binary.
Binary because of what?
Hydro.
Now you look at the hydro.
And
Right, guys, I had probably 4 or 5 kids answer acid naming without acid on it last year. Or I said, which one of these is not an acid? Okay, and they weren't looking at this last word. If it says acid, it's an acid. Okay? So, then I look at hydro, which means when I go over here to write my formula, how many capital letters can I have?
2.
What does one of them have to be?
H.
So I write H, and this is what most of my kids have forgotten to do so far. Because I'm formula writing, what must I also do?
Oh no, I'm lost.
Oxidation numbers. So I put the +1 above H. Sulfuric comes from where?
Sulfur.
Does it come from sulfate or sulfite?
Yeah,
Neither,
no
right?
idea.
Because that's polyatomic ions. Do I have any polyatomic ions over here?
No.
So sulfuric must come from sulfur, which has a what charge? -2. What do I do with those charges?
Flip flop them.
H2S. Which is one of the biggest reasons why we introduce acid naming right here, because it's still ionic rules as far as crossing the charges. Okay, do the next one. Hydroiodic. Give me a formula for hydroiodic acid. Hydroiodic.
Hey, sir.
Okay, what is my formula?
HI.
HI. Hydro says it's binary, 2 letters. The first one has to be hydrogen. Iodic comes from iodine, which is I. When I cross those charges up, they're just ones. They don't really cancel out, but they go away. They don't go away really. They're just implied. So HI. There's no subscripts there. Okay. So go to page 8 of your homework.
Go to Roman.
Go to page 8 of your homework. So you are not doing this. You're not writing anything down. What I want you to do, you got 30 seconds to do this. You are going to like star or bullet point or put a mark to the left of all of those that are binary. Go. You do it. You can still be able to.
Page 8 of the homework.
Page 8 of the homework. Star or put a dot, something next to the left of every single one of those that is binary. Down to 20 seconds. You ready? Okay, on two hands. And you must use two hands. You must use two hands. Tell me how many you marked. Six. Six, fours. What number you at? You gotta give me a number.
One of them says hypo. I am using two hands. One of them says hypo.
So, if you've got six,
You're wrong.
however you did it, I want you to look at one of them. Towards the bottom, it says hypo.
Yeah, but there's still two.
So it is five.
This is what you should have had
Easy.
on two hands.
I am.
3 and 2.
Go like that.
5. There's a total of 5.
Would you look at it? That's
Make your thing.
oh, where you're at.
That's what I did too. Right? You should have had 5. If you found more or less than 5, you need to figure it out right now. And if you can't, let me know.
No, clearly it's an
Still hydro. So it follows binary rules. And we'll talk about it in a second. You won't be tested over this. But I'll tell you about it. Yes, this, but not over the cyan stuff. Okay? Go to page 9. Oh my. Down up, same thing. Mark all of your binary. Go. There's not.
Cyanide acid. Cyanide is a polyatomic ion.
Hypo.
Oh, I thought you said that was, I thought you said the starting.
That's a polyatomic ion.
It is. It's an exception.
There's an exception.
To everything, man.
That's what he said.
Everything. Hey, on one hand, show me how many you found. One hand. Ready, go.
What are we doing?
You found
How many
three.
of
I
them?
found
No,
Somebody was
one
like,
hand. Oh, sorry.
where is that?
somebody just called herself
I
out.
got
I don't really care. Show me how.
How did you find? There should be 4. By our rules.
So we're not.
Okay? Listen. And if you're confused with a lot of this stuff, you can kind of tune me out right now because I don't want to add more to your plate. But we've tried to pull out some of the exceptions, like the cyanide is the one that's getting you each time. These are called oxy acids because in their polyatomic ions they have oxygen. So technically, these are rules for all polyatomic ions that are in acids that contain an oxygen.
Cyanide doesn't.
If the polyatomic ion does not contain an oxygen, it follows the binary rules. Okay? But you don't need to know that. You won't have cyanide on your test. I actually just took it off. Okay? It was a bonus last year on the test, but it confused so many people and we just took it off. Okay? So, now you can turn your hearing back on if you tuned out. But, so this is the rules that we're gonna follow. All right? If you have a pi-atomic ion on your test, it will contain an oxygen, so you will follow these rules. Everybody got it? Okay? So,
Then,
waiting.
have you learned about the old oxy acid?
Yeah, right now.
Please.
Please, at the edge of your chair.
He said so kind.
Okay,
He said, please.
now we need to know how to write oxyacids. So we know how to, we should know how to identify them because they're not binary, which means they have 3 more elements. In their names, if you're given a name, what will they not contain? Hydro. Okay? So the first thing, and this is where it really starts to get a little weird, not weird, just more. Like if you don't study this, you're not gonna get it. If you don't practice this at home over this weekend, if you come in on Monday, it's gonna be gone. Okay? You have to do this practice over the weekend. Girls, I need you to. You ready? So, the first thing is it doesn't contain hydrogen, or sorry, hydro. It does contain hydrogen, but we just don't say hydro. Then we need to find that polyatomic ion. Because as soon as I find that polyatomic ion, in the name, we are going to change that 8 to ic.
Just like I can.
The ending, we're going to exchange the 8 to ic. Okay? So in normal ionic writing, I just put down the polyatomic ion, right? I don't change the name of it. That was one of the rules, right? However, if it's an acid, I have to change the ending, and if that ending is 8, I turn it into ic. And this is where I tell you one of the biggest downfalls that my students had last year when they first learned this was like, okay, I need to identify binary versus oxy, and so I'm going to look at the ending. Well, if you look at the ending, ic and ic, can we look at the endings to identify?
No. Definitely not.
And they started to do that, and that's where, like, when I try to reteach it, they had to get that out of their mind. Like, I can't look at the endings. I've got to look at hydro. I've got to count the atoms, or not the atoms, but the elements. Okay? So, how does this work? I need to turn HNO3 into a name. Right? Here's your way of thinking. First off, starts with an H. So it must be an acid, right? Then I got to look. How many elements are a part of it? 1, 2, 3. Oxyacid. And so once I figure out it's an oxyacid, I really got to focus my attention on, okay, what polyatomic ion is in there?
Nitrate.
NO3 is nitrate. Nitrate. There's a reason why I capitalized all of that. Because when I go to name it, I need to get rid of that 8 and replace it with ic. Replace the 8 take out the 8, replace it with ic, and so this turns into nitric acid. Notice how, do I have a hydro there? No, because this is oxyacid naming. There is no hydro. All right, the next one, H2SO4.
Sulfate.
Acid, yes. 3 elements, oxyacid. Right? Where is my polyatomic ion? It's never going to be H, I'll tell you that. Hopefully that's an easy part for you. So SO4 is sulfate. Because I'm working with an acid, and this ends in 8, I drop the 8, and I replace it with ic. Right? Now, sulfur is a little bit weird when we turn it into an acid, because we write the entire sulfur name, sulfuric. And you've probably heard of sulfuric acid before. It's in car batteries. Okay? It's one of your strong acids. Very, very dangerous. Okay? But this will be sulfuric acid. Okay? Not sulfic acid. A lot of wrong answers I get are sulfic acid. You put SL, that is wrong, okay? Now you're thinking, okay, so what's the rule behind it? How can what's something this is one of those things where you just have to flat out remember it, okay? There's no other ones that we use where like you have to use the whole entire element name and add it to it. Everything else is a straight drop off.
Sulfuric acid said so much.
Yeah, we use it a lot, as far as examples go, okay? So the saying down here is I ate something icky. That's, if it helps, it helps. If not, find something else.
What is icky?
Icky?
Yeah.
Gross?
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, so the other way,
Teachers, Ms. Harden, this interruption is a reminder, if you have not done so already, please make sure to get by the library to get your staff picture taken. Thank you.
all right? So the next one is, if you look at all your polyatomic ions, they either, most of them end in ate or ite, right? So we've taken care of ate, now we've got to do ite. So if your polyatomic ion ends in ite, you need to replace it with us. And it's the same rules, like it's gonna be sulfurous if we happen to have that, and we will down here, okay? So in this case, I need to turn HNO2 into a name. I know that it's an acid, I know that it's an oxyacid because it has 3 elements a part of it, which means I need to identify my polyatomic ion as nitrite. Nitrite. So because of that, when I go to put it into a name, I drop off the ite, replace it with us. This turns into nitrous acid. No hydro. So here's what we haven't done yet. We haven't gone from the name into the formula. So let's go here. Now I have sulfurous acid. What should be your train of thought going this way? This is I haven't taught this yet, so I need your attention, right? Do I see, so I have sulfurous acid, I need a formula. Do I see hydro in here?
No.
No.
Yeah.
But it's there.
But do I have an acid?
Yes.
So what do all acids start with?
H.
So you can get started by just putting an H, right? Then, do you see hydro?
No.
Which means your next thing needs to be a polyatomic ion, right?
Yes.
So right here is where I'm going to get my polyatomic ion. And I know that this ending has changed when I've named an acid. And now we're going backwards. This ending has come from us, has been exchanged with ite. So what I need to do is say, okay, I'm not looking for sulfurous in my list. I'm looking for not sulfurite. Remember how that's a little exception there, right? I should be looking for sulfite. What is the formula for sulfite?
SO3. With a 2 minus.
Am I done?
No.
I need to use charges. +1, -2.
So you have 2.
Cross it down. H2SO3. Which is what we've started with over here. All right. Sometimes going, in this instance, going from the name and into the formula is probably the most difficult skill that we're going to do in this lesson, on this unit, really. Okay? Specifically talking about acids, going from the name and into the correct formula, because you've got to undo the ending, and then you've got to cross up the charges if you need to. You need to check it at least. Okay? So, what you have your homework, pages 7 and 8. You have pages 7 and 8.
Crazy.
We are going, just so you know what you're working towards, at the end, the last 15 minutes of class, we are going to be taking like an exit ticket quiz. Okay? Over specifically naming and writing formulas of these acids. You will not be able to use your notes, but I will keep these up here. Okay?
We're doing this one? This is page 7.
Page 8 and 9, sorry. Page 8 and 9.
That's why I was confused.
Okay? So, I would spend about 5 minutes right now, 5 to 8 minutes on page 8. It's homework, so you should do some of it at home. And then on page 9, spend 5 to 8 minutes, because then we're gonna move on. Don't spend all of your time on page 8, because then you don't get any practice on page 9. Ready, go.
Can I take my manager really fast? It'll take like 2 minutes.
Did you check all of it? You did it all right? That's what, well, you can check it real quick.
My head like.
Where did you learn that? In what video?
Yeah.
That's fine. That's,
Well, cause I really did not realize, but the memory came back right after I finished all of it.
you're good. Check it all.
I mean, you know. No. That's on you. Now it's on you.
Because you never touch anything inside
B? According to my calculations, B is boron. So O3 is, but it's like oxygen. Which one are you on? Oh, I'm on page 8.
So no binary should ever happen.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. VO3, we're not right. Black Ops 3. That's the one thing that I know. That's the end of the VA. I'm gonna be so real. I feel like it should be pretty good.
So you do hydrogen, then you write hydrogen. Yeah, you have to separate it, because if you do hydrogen 2, and then do all the.
Yeah, I don't know why Black Ops 3 is on the first floor.
That's what I said, it was the solid compromise.